Hi guys, welcome back to Lighthouse Projector series with your two hosts, Juliette Stapleton and Anita Keene. We are back and we want to talk about something that a lot of our clients ask us on our sessions. They're saying, I don't know how to fall in love with my design. I feel like I'm not connecting with the design. And I absolutely love this topic. In fact, as I'm saying this, even before I even introduce you and tell you what we're going to cover, I'm getting goosebumps because this is such a correct topic for us to express our perspectives on, I think. So in this episode, we've prepared 6 tips. So each one of us prepared three, not tips, but three things we want to, 3 ways we want to open these doors for you into the world of human design that you will love. We will start with the first reaction when you're receiving the information and why you shouldn't judge this information. So very, very important. We will talk about how to find meaning behind definitions. We will talk about how to use human design to get into more flow. We'll talk about how to deal with those triggering or negative things that you hear about yourself, because sometimes, they might not land really well in the beginning. And finally, we will talk about how to use human design in a way that will help you fall in love with it and show up in the world, in your business, empowered by your design. And it's so simple. Please stay with us. And you absolutely, I guarantee, if you feel like there's something in your design you do not like, you do not agree, perhaps just after this 45 minutes or so, you will be able to give yourself permission to be you. And that's our goal. So we will start with Anita. Anita, you wanted to bring this whole thing about the first impression, or how we respond, maybe not the first time, but how we respond to the design.
Absolutely. One of my biggest things is don't judge the information when you get it at first. Now, some of the readers you'll find are they're sticklers for the information specifically. So with this, what I found was that human design is more like an energy profiling tool that we use to tell us how we're designed to leverage our energy and the way that the strategies and the actual ways that we can do that. Now, when I've done hundreds of readings with people, and only one genuinely didn't know herself. She was an older lady. She had been brought up and conditioned in a way that she did what she was told, as a woman, how to behave, and it was nothing close to who she was. And so when we judge the information, we lose the benefit of it in relation to telling us our nuances, what's unique about me. I remember I got my first reading with Shaitan Parkin, and I remember because most of us ask the question, who am I? I'm not this person society tells me I'm supposed to be, but who am I? And this reading with Shaitan, it was a half an hour, and he literally I was sitting there going, oh my God, no one has seen me to this level ever before. He was calling out who I secretly knew I was. And it wasn't how I was showing up in my world, right? And it was so funny. One of the biggest things he said, which I thought was hilarious, was, you don't have a domestic bone in your body, Anita. And I was there, oh my God, that's so true. Because I couldn't cook. I'm not big into cleaning or into, those kind of things. But as a woman, that's my role, right? So they were things I should be doing. And people used to chastise me about my cooking and my, all that stuff. And I literally gave myself permission not to judge that I'm not because I was judging that I'm not a bit domestically inclined, not to judge it and embrace it. So now I meet people out for dinner. I don't try to cook. I just I don't try to be something I'm not. And that's really one of the things about the information was I embraced that because I knew it was actually true. Sometimes the information can be derogatory to what you believe you should be. And so when you judge it, you miss the point. I guess that's the biggest point I'm making. But in the end of the day, it's like permission to be something, to be who you are rather than who you think or people think you should be. All right.
I
So
love that. I love that. And you know, there's so many stories. Even Mary Smith, who wrote the foreword for my first book, she was telling a story that she came across human design, 10 years before, and it kind of like it didn't even make a big impression. First impressions are so different. Sometimes it doesn't make an impression. I had a client who came to me and she was saying, Juliette, everybody says there's a door in this wall and I don't see this door. I don't know. And she was sitting in front of me with her arms crossed, that kind of closed body and fixed beliefs. And she was like, I don't think that there's a door. Well, you can try. And at the end of the call, she was saying, Juliette, there is a door. I can't believe this. Because and I'm probably going to pivot into my first point that I want to make, because we are taking sometimes the information, whether we go to a reader who is a person who interprets something. Sometimes some of them are very, as Anita just said, sticklers for the information. So they will stick to whatever definition they learned in, whichever way they're certified to do things. But then there's also other types of people who are very intuitive. In fact, here's the interesting thing. The person who developed a human design system, who had the big download, right? Raoul, was an intuitive reader. And I heard him speaking himself. He was saying, I don't need to know about the gates and channels. I just need to look at your design and I already know what's going on. I'm also that kind of person. I just sense what's going on. Then, of course, I can go into, the descriptions of the design, the channels and the gates and all these other things. And just get a confirmation of what I see. So it's a different kind of interpretation. I think personally that we need both. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but I do not think that there's just one or the other. We need both, and this is why the research is important. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I want to make a point about when you're getting the first time you're getting a reading, and for example, you are a generator, and they say to you, you need to wait to respond, and because you don't know what this waiting means. By the way, we had in the same series, Lighthouse Projector series, we had a whole episode on waiting. So to understand what it actually means and not just take it at the surface level of what this word to wait, because we still think like it's, I don't know, waiting room at the doctor's office, right? You're sitting there waiting to be called. That's what we think waiting is, but it's not, so that's just one word. And I think that there is power. And here's where you start really, really, embodying your design. First, when you start questioning these words that are strange, and you don't just follow. Don't be a headless chicken, following any information. Unfortunately, most of us are usually, especially when we're excited or someone very charismatic gave us a reading and we just, we don't question. But it's really important that we understand. And to understand, it takes time, it takes awareness, it takes experimenting, and a lot of words, a lot of definitions in human design actually are not what they seem as a word. There's something much more. There's something different, like, projectors waiting for invitations. I know so many projectors who are so bitter because they feel like nobody sees them, nobody invites them. And they don't even understand, because they haven't done their research, that invitation is something, it can also be something that pulls you, pulls you in to study, to do something. And you should follow that, because that's through that you're opening up your energy. So this awareness happens when you redefine these definitions. And I believe that everybody's design, this is not what you are, because as Anita said, you could be believing, and you probably do, we all do, we believe we should do things certain way because the society, the religion, our parents, everyone is telling us this is how we should be doing things, and and other things like the same, Anita. I also don't have that much domestic, especially with cooking and cleaning. I am much better a guest than I am a host. I just get too tired too quickly. My projector energy runs out. I have no energy to host, and then I have to clean, and no. So it's like it's just gives you this, yes, you're okay. You can do the things your way. Nobody's going to leave your world, and if they do, they're incorrect people anyway in the first place. So you shouldn't be holding on to those who don't belong in your world in the first place. Let them go, and that's what redefining definitions do to me. And I think it's just opening up a lot of flow. And I think, Anita, this is what you were wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, the flow. Well, you see, with those definitions as well, I only realize this because I've lived in Ireland now in different places, in England, in America. Different people have different definitions for what words mean. So you do need to be very careful with that. But as a 5-1, I love to find practical applications of any information, right? So for me, it literally what the human design information can give you, or I love when I do readings that I give people a practical application, is they give us our operating system on how we are uniquely designed to flow and flow in our relationships with our health, with people, with money. And it takes us out of the dramas in our lives that are all consuming and such a waste of time often, where we're in relationships that we can't get to the bottom of. For example, I remember it saved my marriage knowing how to get my relationship with my husband flowing better. It doesn't mean it always flows, mind you, but it was definitely, there were certain interactions that our designs made that, for example, the 2343, I've described it a few times. I was there going, oh my God, I had the 23, he had the full channel, I had half, which means I'm the one who feels I'm not heard. What about my good idea? All these things that I would be asking, hang on, where am I in all this, right? Which you can imagine can turn out to be a nightmare in a relationship. When I realized that we had this combination, we were able to develop a strategy around getting it flowing, getting it working, not trying to fix something that wasn't broken, not spending a fortune in therapy trying to, solve something that wasn't something that we needed to solve. This was just how we connected with each other. And when we're out of balance, I felt unheard. So now, like when he's has his brilliant idea, because he does, this is a brilliant idea channel, there's no doubt about it. My initial response is, that's a fantastic idea for you. For you, let me kind of mull it over and see how it resonates with me, right? So instead of killing each other or getting into an argument, I step back now, and so does he though, because we know that he'll step back and he'll kind of go, oh my goodness, okay, I'm being narrow-minded. I'm being single-minded about this again. And it really helped him in work as well, because in work he was able to literally understand the tension when he was being narrow-minded or single-minded, and was able to develop a strategy to step back and include his team in a different way. He said you could tangibly feel the energy in the room go from tension, fight, back into, oh, okay, he does see us. He does hear us. And, it's the same with money, Juliette, because there's certain parameters in the chart that tell you where you are actually in a behavior, a predictable behavior that's setting up scarcity in your life. You might not even know it. You might not even know you're triggered, or that it's fear that's running this action of yours. But when you do know what that is, again, you can develop a strategy that allows it to flow and step out of the stress and fight or flight of, oh my God, where's the money? I need money. And and with the health, oh my God, as a projector, what can I say? I've redefined my whole business model based on leveraging my energy. I would run workshops and retreats at weekends, and on the Monday wonder why I am so exhausted, and yet pushing myself to continue to take clients on the Monday. Now I realize, okay, if I do a weekend workshop, I need to take Monday off. And it's for pure R and recovery, and don't try to push anything else. It would work beautifully for a generator, a manifesting generator, but not for me. And allowing myself the permission to develop my business based on my natural energy, pace, and timing has been business changing, but and life changing for me. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing how we can utilize this information to understand, ooh, it's not something wrong with me. It's just how I present when I'm in stress. And all I need to do is reset. I don't need to fix it. I don't need to understand why. I don't need to do any of that. I can just literally go, oh yeah, I'm doing it again. I just need to it's really cool.
I love that because, yes, human design is about awareness. It is not about a rule book or, it's not about what you should be doing. There is this notion of transference, which means that we're kind of floating between things that are more aligned to things that are less aligned, because we're humans and we're here on this material plane. Material plane is a third line plane. It's mistakes, it's trials, it's errors, right? It's absolutely fine to be making mistakes. So some of them we need because that's how we learn. We learn what doesn't work, right? It's really, really important that we keep that in mind because people are so looking for alignment. But you know why? Because they're exhausted. They're exhausted from this, the hardships of life, which we all have. But instead of navigating and understanding that, there are cycles, the highs will be, replaced by lows, and the lows are always going to get better and get back into the high, frequencies. So it's important to just learn to start navigating this. I think this is what human design is. It's a map. It's not a rule book. And so sometimes, and that brings me to my second point. When we hear something that can be triggering and negative, one of the stories, and I do mention this a lot in, when I write or talk, was my mom once in an argument. She said to me, I was already in my mid-30s, and she said something like, "Oh, you're so selfish. All you do is talk about yourself. I always listen. You never listen to anyone else." And I remember I was so embarrassed. I was so conflicted as well because I didn't realize that I'm doing this. I didn't realize, but she made me think about it. And I was saying, yeah, oh my God, I'm a selfish person. And then several years later, human design came into my life, and I found out that I'm a 1-3. A 1-3, both lines existing in the lower triagram, it's the deepest self-absorbed profile. So a person like me is here to just consume the world and then through the mental process find some sort of, answers on actually what doesn't work, right? And I have to be, in a way, always within my mind for this process to happen, to be true to this design. So when I realize that, oh my God, hang on a second, I am born. And not only I'm born to talk about myself, there's a reason why, because this mental processing is evaluating all the time what is solid, what is secure, what is trustworthy, and what is fluff. And I just recently, there's a free profile series on Jovian Archive where Ra is talking about profiles and lines, and he talks about a 1-3, and he says most of people want to know what works. But we are dual, we are living in a world of duality. So there is bad and there's good. There's what works and what doesn't work. And if you don't know what doesn't work, how can you know what works, right? And so within that, he said, we're living in the duality. So people like 1-3s, they're the ones who will jump into things. They will experience them on their own skin, and they will process it mentally, and they give the shortcut that these things don't work. This is super valuable information. And he said, thank God the world has 1-3s. And you know what, that just gave me so much validation. Because yes, when I talk about something, I use personal experiences because that's how I serve the world. That gave me so much cockiness. I love that word ever since that happened, because it was because of my human design or an awareness of human design. And so when you have some sort of negative or triggering information, there is a way to go step beyond, and this is why I started with redefine the definitions, redefine what it feels on the surface level, go deeper and start researching, listen, discuss, journal. What does this mean to you? And try to understand. It's not enough, if you don't understand fully what certain things, especially when they're triggering you, you need to understand fully what they what they are, what they actually are. Because behind that smoke screen and the first impression and your trigger, if you just allow the, like my husband says, the only way through is through. If you go through that first negative impression, continue researching, you will, and I guarantee you, you will find the angle to see that element in a very empowering way, like I just described, from feeling selfish. It's a horrible, very, shameful feeling, to feeling that I am on purpose. This is how I serve the world. And that's a very, very different backing that, everything that you do gets, right? And then you also understand that it's okay to be the way you are. This is why I love profiles, because profiles give a lot of that practical information about your personalities. It's very interesting. And so yeah, so this is my blessing to you. I think that everybody's design is perfect. So the map of your alignment, the map of the ease and relaxing into life that you're getting in your human design and human design chart and the reading, it's perfect. It is created for ease and flow.
Yeah.
It's up to you to understand your own design, to figure out how it works for you, because this is the
Absolutely.
science of
Yeah.
uniqueness.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that because I know they call it a duality, but to me, the duality is the fight or flight. The balance is in the middle. When we've too little energy, we can be burnt out. When we've too much energy, we're hyperactive and overcomplicating things. But we all experience all the energies. It's how we experience them that differs. That's why um, when you know how you flow, you have your own strategy to avoid burnout. That's why when you'll be afraid of things that other people aren't afraid of. That's why, like, I love to work with Juliette because I know she's tried it first. That's why people like to work with me because I take the information, I assess it, I evaluate it. If there's a practical application of it, I take it and run with it. If there isn't, it gets the trash. So it's kind of like permission to understand how do you process information at all, because human design shows you how to do that, but also to understand that that reframe, um, the reframe, even I'm just wondering about your decision strategy really helps with this. Really helps us to assess and evaluate information in a way that we will connect it more with our inner yes, with our decision strategy. It makes it so much easier to evaluate what's true for you or not. And when we get into the judgment, we start making it right or wrong, we lose it. So when you can, because especially at the moment, right, there's so much information available, there's so much AI generated information. How do you work out what resonates with you or not? What will bring more flow to you or not? And I think on top of what Juliette is saying, yes, ask the questions and connect with your own inner yes. When people say what resonates with you, that's what they mean. If it resonates with you, you're getting an inner yes to it. If it doesn't, you're getting a no. And what has happened is, depending on who says it, it might be some guru, it might be some super expert in an arena, in an area. Because they say it, you have to believe it? No. Just as much as, if a human design reader says something in a particular way, it could very easily be from their wounded space. So it's not an interpretation that will work for you at all. But it's realizing um, it's which wolf are you feeding? Your superpowers, when you're in balance, when you're composed, when you're focused, when you're intentional in your life and flow, become your super liabilities when you're out of balance. And when you know that, it just makes it such a super tool to develop the strategy to know what to do. Sometimes it is time to fix it. Sometimes it is something that you just need to reset. And when you can tell the difference, you literally, life doesn't change out there. There's still as many weirdos and crazy people and crazy situations. It's that how you perceive them changes. So I have a brilliant example of this. Because I remember being in a work situation. It was a pure bully situation, and I was there going, "But I'm really good. I'm really good. Let me show you. Let me show you." And I was like working my ass off to show people how good I was. Look, utilize me. I'm a super resource. And after a lot of hardship and heartache and disappointments, I decided, hang on a second. This is stupid. I sat down and I started working out what my actual contract was. And I started working out here's how I can contribute in the best way possible. And I'm still fulfilling your ask of me. End of. I stopped trying to impress. I just started showing up how I knew I was designed to show up. And oh my God, it was a game changer. As I said, the work environment didn't change. How I perceived it changed. And here's a really important key because when you know your flow and your how you're designed to operate, when you're in a job that you don't like, and you develop this more insular approach to your work, as in how you can contribute in your best way, you stop being impacted by all the stresses and strains around you. And naturally, a new job or a new opportunity will show up for you when you stop fighting it and trying to make it okay and start accepting, no, this is where I am in balance to contribute. It changes things. Your outer world changes. And what happened with me was, I started working the situation instead of being worked by it. And within a few months, actually, a new opportunity did show up for me. And it was amazing. And I've seen it happen over and over again with my clients where when they stop um, judging, and this is with your human design, when they stop trying to show up in a way they're not wired, they realize, oh, yes, I am an engineer, but it's this perspective that I'm really good at. And for me, I am a projector, but doing this generator approach to work will never work for me. I'm always going to be the one who's going to be burnt out by this. So I don't know, does this even tie into your point? I think it does, because
Yeah, absolutely. I actually want to add something, and I want to just the generators. Generators, yes, you also can be sick of your job, of course, because maybe this what you're doing, you might be doing it well, right? And you might be better than us projectors in terms of, the ability to on like my sister is a generator and she says, I sometimes live on autopilot. I know things I need to do, I'll do my adulting things, but my heart is not into it. So yes, of course, we don't want, just because both of us are projectors, we don't want to dismiss you guys at all. But it's about understanding your mechanics sometimes as well. Because what you just described, I think every projector's been there. I've been there. This whole thing about, being bullied because you're different or because you don't keep up with a certain, even social demands of the workplace and other kind of elements that sometimes irrelevant to exactly what you're doing. And then you start getting, frustrated because you're saying, hey, hang on a second, but I am so good at this, what I'm doing. Why, guys, you don't see it? But there's other things in this scenario, and they're mechanical. They're sometimes just energetics, that are happening. So when you know that, as a projector, for example, that you don't need to push, you can show up and be available. And that is going to get so much more invitations rather than you pushing, and then you're just interfering with your heavy and very penetrative aura. People don't like when they're being penetrated. This is energetic rape, and you have to remember that, right? If you're a generator and you're showing up, and you're frustrated, you have to understand you have a very porous aura, right? That frustration is going to spill. It's not like you're sitting there frustrated within yourself. You're affecting everyone within your aura. And even strangers, like on a bus, I don't know, because you're so frustrated, we all need to take responsibility for ourselves energetically. But that does create the flow, because when you know your place, your role, your mechanics of how you interact with the world, that gives you a strategy. As Anita earlier said, that gives you a strategy for the flow, because you can then take full responsibility, and also you decide. I know now, I was also like this. I was also, trying to prove my worth. But I know now that the less I prove my worth, and the more I just make myself available, I continue doing my things. Somebody, say, showed me that they don't really see the value in my work, right? I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna do something for me, not for them, these specific people. I'm just gonna show up in the world in a way that adds to me recognizing myself, those people, it's up to them. If they're correct ones, they will pivot. They will change their minds. They will feel regretful that, whatever happened. If they're incorrect people, then who cares what they think? They're incorrect in the first place.
That's so true. And with the generator and manifesting generator, there's frustration and anger can be their emotional theme they talk about in human design. But actually, it's your cue to say something's wrong here. I need to do this differently. Is it me? Is it them? And you set up a strategy of questioning to allow you to establish what needs to be done here. When I talked about a projector overdoing things, but a manifesting generator and a generator can genuinely jump into the fire instead of and be the fire with their frustration, instead of step back and understand, yes, I'm an amazing and very capable, I have an amazing and capable ability of getting things done to resolve situations. But if I'm in the fire, I can't see what needs to be done the same way as when I step back and evaluate the fire, what's causing it, what actually needs to be fixed. Because when my work in corporate, everybody was in this frenzy of firefighting. And instead of turning off the gas to the fire or the fuel, they were going from fire to fire to fire through stress. And when they realized, oh my God, when I step back, of course I can see more clearly what's going on. I'm not just applying my expertise through stress, I'm applying my expertise through genius. I'm actually delivering real-time solutions so this doesn't happen again. It was really empowering for them to understand I'm not the fire. I am the putter outer of the fire.
I love
Or,
it.
and it's the same rescuing. The manifesting generator loves to rescue, jumping into the water to save someone and both of you drowning instead of throwing the life buoy, letting people have their emotional whatever they're doing, or and not trying to fix it straight away, being more empowering about it. It's really cool because when you understand, so many of us judge emotional expression as being right or wrong. And so this is the one place that I find people judge the most. I don't get frustrated. I don't get angry if they're, which is, but actually, when you realize that these emotional expressions are a super signal for you to let you know, yes, something's off. You need to step back and decide, hang on, is there something I need to fix here? Do I just need to reset my energy? Or has someone genuinely violated my boundary? And I genuinely need to take action, but taking it from anger or frustration is not the place to take it from. I'm only going to fuel the fire, right? So it's so useful to understand that about how you operate and realize where your superpowers lie. Because if you look at all the different designs, we actually generate a super team, you know, where the reflector sees what needs to be shifted to make more flow. The projector guides the process. The generators and the manifesting generators get busy doing things that, and we all kind of come together in a super contributory way that all our skill sets are now valued and seen and appreciated and invited or responded in a way that suits everybody. And it just this can work so well.
I love this. I love this. Which brings me to a kind of next point I want to make, but I want to make it through a segue. I want to redefine a definition here. We talk about the generator's world. And the truth is that our world doesn't operate by the rules of the generators on a manifesting generator's energy. It's just 70% of people in this world are that energetic type. So we are living in the generator's world. But for example, corporate environment is not at all a generator's rule, and generators suffer so much from this because there's just too many shoulds and too many restrictions to be who you are or to like doing things in your own unique way so you can be satisfied. Very rarely a generator and what they do in the corporate world is actually such a beautiful combination that they do buzz from it. Very, very rarely. I believe that it's possible, of course, we're so all different. And it's really important to remember that as well. because when we're discussing things that the religious belief system of beliefs, the societal system of beliefs, which are different in different places, and even in, say, for example, I live in Europe, and I lived in Ireland and I lived in the UK, and my second husband was Irish, my third husband is from the UK. There is slight difference. It's next door, slight difference in the cultural how-tos, and those things, they're not energetic. They're not because, of generators or projectors or anything. They just are. This is something to be aware of, right? And so it's important that we know that the human design, when you start redefining the definitions, this is a map. So how can your life and what you're here to learn? So remember, learning something, that means also, making mistakes. It's not that you're going to get everything right. There's going to be things you have to get wrong so that you learn, right? So how can you have these lessons that are aligned with you, that are not struggle for the sake of nothing, right? That are opening you doors and opportunities for your personal growth, for your fulfillment, for you being here on purpose, living on purpose, and contributing to the world intentionally, right? This is what human design does. But what I find, and this is what I want to kind of finish with. We talked about redefining. We talked about how not to judge, the information you're getting. We talked about how you can take it and create a strategy and create more flow. How to, maybe there's you can even look for the right reader, because one person could be giving you a reading, but the examples and the definitions and even their perception of everything is their unique perception. It can come from wounded places. I have seen people very, very highly educated in human design, leading figures in human design, not living by design from the outside. Yeah, I'm just going to be controversial. Actually doing things that they tell not to do. They teach that, but they don't live it. And that's something. So nobody's perfect, and it's fine, because we are not perfect. We can't expect that somebody's going to be perfect just because they know a lot of technical information about a thing, right? So when we are receiving the human design, here's the big like a danger zone. When you receive this reading or several readings, and they all say things, and maybe some things they sound really, really good, but they sound good, but they don't correspond with what you deep down need or want. That happened to me. I just recently had a call with a lady who said, I'm getting these psychic readings, I'm getting astrology readings, I'm getting other readings, and they're all saying, hey, you have such a beautiful contribution to give to the world. There's something big, and, do something. But she says, but I kind of want ease, and I have a partner, and I just want to work with this partner right now. Is this the right thing, or am I playing small? See how there's like a seed of doubt just because somebody said you were born for greatness. And I said to her, why? Who says that being great is a solo thing? You can be great in partnerships. Absolutely. Look at Eurythmics or other duos that are so great in partnerships, right? You can make an impact. So you have to go with much more with what your inner knowing says yes to. And then what's on the outside, again, you can redefine this. It doesn't have to be taken as at the face value. You can redefine this, and don't try to fit. And this is what my 6th point, or the point today. Do not try to fit into what your reading or research about human design gave you, those words, those definitions, the specific, surface level indication, as a cue of what you need to do, especially in your business, but in life as well, but in your business, oh my God, so many times. And this is another controversial thing, and this is my pet peeve. There's so many human design programs, human design for business programs there that will tell you what you need to do based on some gate or some channel or something else, but actually tells you what you need to do, rather than giving you, this is what the possible alignment, and then let you see if what you're already doing or what you're drawn to doing echoes and validates and says, yes, what you are on the right track. Because when you are not on the right track, that information cannot tell you, go there and that's your right track, because you have to figure out what that direction is yourself, human design can only echo. It just doesn't have that, it's not that kind of map, right? And a lot of people are looking into something and they drop what they've been doing and actually really like doing, thinking that this is not enough or that there is something else, so that, and there's a lot of motivations behind that. I've been thinking about it long and hard. Sometimes they don't make enough money in their business and they think that if they go with something that they read somewhere in some channel and they pivot, that that is going to bring them more money. So this is literally purely fear of missing out, that if I don't do this, maybe, or just being a little bit desperate, and or being in a survival mode and I need the money. So the money kind of making thing, I find it very often pushes us into outside the comfort zone. There's two comfort zones. There's a comfort zone where you're afraid to do something. I like the
Yeah.
other comfort zone is the comfort zone where you feel comfortable. And I think this is the zone that the true prosperous expert business is, where you feel good within this business. Yes, there's still challenges and you can challenge yourself and do, hard things, but you feel good about what you're doing. You haven't lost yourself. This is the most powerful, I think. And, or for me anyway, this is what I see, that this is the business that facilitates your dreams, not when you're a slave to your business. And so with this human design readings programs, all you can do is try to look for validations that what you do is you're doing the right way, or maybe you're drawn to the thing, you feel like this is okay. But human design can also reveal where you are trying to go against the flow, where, for example, you're trying to create things where you are supporting people at every step of their process, for example, but that is not your natural process. You're a different kind of guide. Maybe you're a guide who just inspires and opens different perspectives, rather than giving an ABCD roadmap to doing something process based. And that's what's beautiful about human design. It kind of gives you this permission, again, because deep down we always know we're doing something that is not really right thing, even though all the charismatic business coaches and gurus are telling you this is how you make a lot of money, and you continue doing it. And yet deep down and that's what human design does. It echoes what all that in that deep down knowing, and says it's okay to be that. It's
Mm.
okay not to do that. Actually, we were talking about the inner yes. There's also inner no that we need to honor. There's so many things we should be saying no to because they just interfere with that flow. And that's something that I think is really important.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on that because really, to me, the biggest, most beneficial thing, and there's so many things that benefit from human design, is learning your decision strategy and learning how you are designed to make those decisions so that you start fitting you, not them. And it's so important because for me, I wouldn't have known as a projector. Here's what can happen. The defined centers, you transmit the energy. The open centers is where you take in other people's energy. You can be in a team, you could be at a meeting, and you could take in their yes. As a projector, you could take in their yes, thinking it's yours, and follow on with their yes and wonder why you're exhausted. The same, you could have an open G center and you're with someone who has a defined G center, and you take in their energy and amplify it. So you might think that their way of doing it is your way of doing it, which isn't true at all. So learning your decision strategy, being able to understand what that healthy environment is for you. So for me, my husband is a manifesting generator. I'm a projector. I've the open sacral, his is sacral definition. And so when we are making a big decision, we'll talk about it, we'll chat about it, and then we'll separate. He'll say, okay, you go down to the cafe, you create the environment for you to get a clear yes. And I'll go, well, I can already detect his clear yes, right? As I'm amplifying his clear yes, but I'm also amplifying his clear no. And we can really make decisions that support our work, that support our life, that support our health. And with business in particular, because there's lots of great programs out there, you can make that decision based on who to work with, what system to invest in, because you're asking yourself, is it going to support you? And as Juliette said, so many people will go out and they'll buy this massive system and find, ooh, I need to hire someone to help me work this now. So even the questions to ask, okay, what do I need to have in place for this system to work for me? Um, do I need, and because people will try to sell you anything depending on where you go, the salesman, the car salesman definition is real. It's very real. Of course, you'll be able to do it. I don't know. I've invested in one program that I genuinely sat there and looked at it and felt it was double Dutch. I genuinely didn't ask the question, what do I need in place before this will actually get me the result you're advertising? And, the simple stuff. But with that, when you can interpret your inner yes and your inner no, that's how you start fitting you and your flow and your success rather than trying to fit them. And this to me has been just a defining factor around learning how to utilize human design for you. And a lot of them will say, you have to try it. You have to operate your strategy, your authority. And that's what they mean. You need to know how does it resonate with you? How do you use it? And the questions that you can ask the readers will tell you who's a good reader or not. And for me as well, I have to say, I found that I love to find a human design reader who incorporates astrology as well. I mean, this is why we did the transits and tactics all year with what, okay, this is how we swim. Your design tells you how you swim, but the astrology tells you, well, what currents are you trying to navigate? Do you need to get a boat? Will a surfboard be enough? Do you need a cruiser because, it's too strong for you today? And that's what I kind of look for in a reader, I'll be honest. And when I am working with people, and I hope this is relevant, like Juliette was a marketer long before she incorporated human design. And she found that by applying the human design through her own experience and helping her clients understand how they're naturally wired to market, to shine, to be visible, made a big difference she was really able to identify that I'm a unique person. And this is what works for you, Anita, or what's the potential, as you said, what's potential for it? Try it and see. The same with me as a projector with a 5-1, I will say, well, here's your design, and now here's how to practically apply it in your life. Because what happens is that when you understand your energy and when you're in balance, you're much more quickly able to read what's going on in the room. It's like, you walk into a room and people are talking about you. Yet they're talking about something completely different, right? There's something going on under the radar. So when you understand what's going on under the radar, you can now interpret it. Oh, is it time for me to go? Is it time for me to stay? You jump out of the judgment and you start to work with what's going on rather than be overwhelmed by it. And you can interpret people's needs. And this is how your expertise can be so unique. Me doing energy work first meant, human design is a super map. For me to be able to say, this is where you might be impacted by others more than usual. And this is where it's actually your design. You just need to reset. There's nothing wrong with you. That thing that you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to fix, actually, you're not broken there. And that's when people get pissed off at me. They're there. Come on, Anita. Of course it's perfectionism, and you're actually wired to be very detail focused. And that very quickly can turn into perfectionism, but it's not something you need to fix, it's something you need to manage.
I
So,
love that. I love
it's
that.
yeah.
Exactly. I loved a lot of things that you said resonated with me. Actually, knowing your partners, for example, human design is so important. Both of my second husband, Jim, now have their root center defined. I can't shop with them. They they just, I have an undefined root center. I want to walk, take my time. Sometimes I'm fast, sometimes I'm slow. The moment they were with me, I am under pressure. I just feel like this adrenaline pressure to make a decision to do it now. And I just feel so uncomfortable. So I prefer, when I go into the shop, I do prefer going myself. Now I know why, because before I knew the design, I would actually get annoyed at them. And that would turn into bickering or something else. I don't know how bitterness would show in me. But now it's so simple. I just know those times, especially those times where I feel like, okay, I don't have that much patience today, not that kind of day, if the weather is bad, and I'll be like, honey, stay in the car. I'm going to
Yeah.
do my thing myself, because that's just the best way to operate. And just to wrap it up as well, guys, what's really important, the question we wanted to highlight in this episode, and I think we did a good job, is how to fall in love with your design. And the bottom line is that, allow it, find the empowerment in what you are learning about yourself, even those things that you yourself shame, like Anita, you just said about perfectionism and attention to detail. It's all about just change, slight change in perspective, how you see things, but then that can become the advantage and not the problem, that you think that there's a problem with you just because somebody says. And this is another thing about, just because somebody says something about you, there might not even be a relevant person to give you that piece of feedback on that particular thing, especially in your businesses. Be aware what your people in your family, even if they're remotely like industry related, they might not understand what you're doing, and you're listening to their feedback. And then the best feedback is always inside. So your strategy and authority, and this is another part of things. Before everything was developed in human design system, everything that is so juicy and so interesting, it's like you can literally spend days and months and researching and reading, and it's so fulfilling to read. But it's not changing anything if you're not following your decision making authority, and if you are not watching the strategy, how you interact with the world, with this mechanics of your aura. It's pointless information that is not actually activating. You can talk about it till cows come home, but it's not actually something you live. And to live all those gifts and all those wonderful things, all you have to do is just learn how to make the yeses and the nos that are correct for you uniquely. Not even about other people. Your in relationships with other people will improve, but it is about you and your unique power inside to be true to you. And when you feel that, that's the cockiness that I mentioned. That's when it all happens. That's when you get a lot of peace, inner peace. You get satisfaction at being who you are, doing who you are. It's okay then to wake up on a Monday. Like I woke up on a Monday today, and a little voice in my head says, it's Monday, you need to do something for your business. And I said no, because I know with my inner, yes, I want to do something else. I want to, like, I went and I tended my plants, and I wanted to do something that in that moment I was drawn to, because that is an invitation to do something that's correct. That gave me in turn the energy and inspiration, for example, to decide what I want to highlight in this episode. And this is how these things operate. So falling in love with your human design will happen. It will happen, but it's up to you to find your unique information and your unique definition, your unique relationships with your design. The design is just a map. It's up to you to either choose to walk that alongside that map, or go on a scenic route. But then you're responsible for your decisions and for your experiences as well. So don't blame anyone else. It's very, very simple. I hope that this hour that you spent with us was indeed fulfilling. We would love to hear from you. And I think that we've said it all. The design is wonderful. Everybody is designed in a way that helps them fulfill this unique purpose that they're here to fulfill. When you see that purpose, everything starts changing. All the little details, you start seeing them from a different light, and it is never negative. No matter how much I research my design, every time I come up to this kind of stumbling block and I'm like, what is this? Does it mean I'm lazy? Does it mean I'm this? Doesn't mean I'm that? No, it doesn't. It actually provides sort of like a fertilizer for my purpose to be fulfilled in the long run. So that's the way to see it. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. So we will see you guys in the next episode of Lighthouse Projector series. Until the next time, goodbye.